For those of you who haven't seen us before, we have Tom Ward, VP Marketing of QNext, and Tom will provide us some insights into the FileFlex product and Office 365. We have Romualdo, who is as it says, a seasoned digital transformation executive. And Ramel has some tremendous knowledge that I will sort of change the structure a little bit this time and kick off with a question from Ramel, and then Tom will dive in, and then we'll move into questions with Ramel and others. And I'm Phil Bliss, the founder of the Edge Computing Association. Nice to see you all. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is really sort of move to everyone, stop sharing and let everyone see us all. There we are. Well done. Okay, hi everybody. And I guess what I wanted to kick off with was, I think this this sort of, let's kick off the scene with a 365 question. Ramel, can you describe some of the data security issues that 365 faces, on existing hybrid IT infrastructures?
So I would start by my first experience in using Office 365 holistically. What I find is that it has to start all the way from the legal agreement between the corporation or the organization and the end user. Okay? Because if that's not sorted out right at the very start, it's quite a challenge to actually implement the security policies and so on. As you know, we're all transforming from everything is in an on-prem data center. Now we have the cloud available to us, and it's transforming not just the organizations, but also the individuals within the organizations. In my case, for example, because I'm an independent consultant, it's very important which device do I use. Is it something that's owned by me, or is it owned by the organization? And then from there emanates the intellectual property issues, data governance issues, and that's just one piece of the puzzle. Let me pause for now. I hope that kind of gives some thoughts or ideas about the data governance and security issues around Office 365.
So just before we ask Tom to kind of dive in, I just want everyone to know that they can post questions throughout the session. When Tom's finished, we'll kind of ask Ramel a couple of questions, and if you have any questions for Tom on his presentation, we can cover that there as well. Okay, so Tom, over to you.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks, Ramel. Let's see here. Well, I'm going to just leave the camera on for a minute and just talk to you guys. And if you're here, it's like me, you've probably been using Office your whole life. And next to the operating system, it's the biggest must-have application on your PC. Everyone in the organization is using it. I know that we're starting to move to others in some fashion. Like my kids, they don't use Office, they use Google Docs. But in the workplace, we pretty much all use Office. And Office was introduced in the 1980s for MS-DOS, actually. Not Office, but the predecessors, Word and Excel and PowerPoint, to run locally on your PC. And that was before the internet even existed. And we know it's changed a lot since then. I'm going to get into that in the presentation. But also the nature of work has changed. Like, we're not tied to our desks anymore. We don't have to go to an office and plug into a network every day. And right now it's gone to remote working, and that's especially so with the with COVID and people working from home. I work almost all the time from home now. I'm in the office right now, but most of the time I'm working from home, as probably most people watching right now are from their homes. And so Office has been changing the way that they work and adapting to the way that we work, I should say. But the thing is, Microsoft will push you into their way of working remotely. And that may not match exactly the way the organization structure has been changing. So the nature of the organization infrastructures has changed also quite a lot. It used to be there was network assets and there were local PCs, but now you have a hybrid structure where you have some cloud hosted infrastructure. It could be on Amazon or Azure or Google or someplace else. And Office hasn't adapted to that. Okay, so I'm going to get into that in my presentation. And then I'm going to get into what zero trust is. So you're going to say, well, what does that have to do with, what does zero trust have to do with Office? It has nothing to do with zero trust as an approach to cybersecurity. And I'm going to explain all that to you so understand that. But the architecture that's used to accomplish that security uses microtunnel technology to access files and folders at a micro segmentation, granular level, right down to the file level. And that microtunnel technology that we use to accomplish zero trust has many other benefits beyond just the security. So, for example, it allows you to determine your sharing permissions on a granular level. So on a file by file level, you can determine permissions. It gives IT full control over remote access and sharing right to the file level. It allows for remote access, sharing, streaming, and editing and file management of anything on the hybrid IT infrastructure. It can be on-premises or cloud-hosted storage, not just OneDrive, for example. It allows you to create virtual data rooms, and it adds all that capability to your Office implementation and to your SharePoint. So I'm going to quickly in the presentation give you an overview to what zero trust, the service security paradigm is, and then I'm going to look into that architecture so that you can understand how that it will extend your Office functionality into your hybrid IT infrastructure and enable your remote workforce and alternatives beyond just OneDrive. Okay, and our solution that I'm going to go into the architecture itself in generic terms, but also go into the solution a little bit. It's called FileFlex Enterprise, and it's been recognized. We've been recognized by Red Herring and awarded as a Global 100 disruptive technology innovation. So let me go over to my file sharing now and see. I'll share my screen. Hopefully we get the technology right. Okay. And I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay. Phil, can you see that slide, the evolution of Office?
I am, absolutely.
Okay, good. It's a good little check there. So originally launched back in, Office was actually launched in the 90s for Windows 2.0 as Office for Windows. So this was before even Windows 95. And it was designed to run on a local PC. Okay, so it was the first time they combined Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. I remember I was working at NEC at the time, and it was a big deal. And it came in a huge box of everything together, and it was really a great idea. But it was launched before the rise of mobile devices, before the distributed workforce that we have today, before even the VPN. And today, users expect to work from anywhere, from their home, from a restaurant when they're traveling, especially today at home. And today's organization now hires workers who can be located anywhere in the world. They don't have to be local anymore. They can be gig-based workers located in another totally other country, or they can be contractors working in another country. Workers, we like to watch TV, and a lot of people are working from the Caribbean because they don't have to be tied to an office anymore. And these workers, they don't connect over the network. They connect via the internet. And so you need to be able to give them the tools to enable that modern work ethos, okay? And with the changes at the way the modern workers work, Microsoft has also evolved the way the Office operates, okay? So it's moved from being an app that ran natively on a PC hard drive to being a hybrid cloud-based platform that it has today that Microsoft calls Office 365 and Office 2016. So, in Office 2, some of the evolution, Office 2010 introduced the first web apps for Office. Office 2013 had cloud integration. Office 365 included unlimited OneDrive storage, and Office 2016 has even tighter cloud integration. And today, Office is still one of the most popular productivity suites in the world. It is the most popular by far. It's used by over 1.2 billion people worldwide, and it's a standard, as we all know. It's a constantly evolving suite of applications that tries to solve a wide range of business challenges. And there are two main components. It's the email component with Outlook and the productivity suite. And so today's Office 365, for example, comes with the email and productivity suites. Plus, it comes with Skype for online conferencing. It comes with Microsoft Teams for collaboration, Planner, Groups, SharePoint, and OneDrive. So it addresses remote access and file sharing through Microsoft's cloud-hosted public storage service called OneDrive. Okay, and so while moving to a cloud-based platform like the one Microsoft's offering with new Offices, it does have its advantages. It may not be the right solution for every business. So we'll get into that here. So the first issue with Office is that it hasn't adapted to the modern hybrid IT infrastructure. It has adapted to the remote worker through OneDrive, but not to the change of how our organizations organize themselves. Because organizations today have a hybrid IT infrastructure. And what I mean by that is that's a combination of on-premises and cloud-hosted servers and storage. So some information is stored on a server-attached storage, like a SAN or a direct-attached storage, and some is on network-attached storage, like a NAS, and some on users' PCs. And on top of that, a lot of information is stored on legacy on-premises implementation of SharePoint. And when it comes to cloud-hosted infrastructure, people are using Amazon S3, Azure, Google, and other cloud services, and it's pretty much all organizations are hybrid IT today. In addition, individual departments may be using enterprise-grade cloud storage on Dropbox or Box, or individual users may be using public cloud storage on Google Drive or OneDrive. And on top of all that, they're all essentially separate silos. And because of the complexity of all that, and because of shadow IT, it's very difficult for IT to maintain control over their data, if they can even do it at all. So the problem for remote users is that Office only provides remote access natively to one place where your files might be, besides your hard drive, and that is OneDrive. Okay, so that forces your users to either copy and sync their important files over to OneDrive, or to use OneDrive as their primary storage. And the challenge comes is that what do you do when you want to access or share files that are stored on your hybrid IT infrastructure, other than OneDrive, rather than your own desktop computer? Or when you need, the other one is what when you need to maintain privacy or confidentiality over files, in that you don't want them stored on a public cloud. And a public cloud is subject to legalized secret access by third parties. Okay, so for confidential documents, that's probably not the best place to be putting them. So given that introduction, let's move on to Zero Trust. Now you might be thinking, what does Zero Trust have to do with the shortcomings of Office? Zero Trust is all about security. Well, it's how Zero Trust is achieved that brings benefit to Office. Okay, so the technology is about security, the standard is about security, but the technology to bring about that security helps revitalize the functionality of Office. So to understand that, I want to give you a very high-level introduction understanding to Zero Trust first. It's an approach to securing, or traditionally, I should say, our approach to securing an organization has been to use perimeter-based defenses that are threat-centric, such as firewalls and antivirus software and OS patches and VPN patches and stuff like that. It's being replaced by an approach that's spearheaded by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, that's called Zero Trust. Zero Trust wasn't invented by NIST, but they're the ones really spearheading the standards. And Zero Trust is exactly what the name implies. It's an approach that always authenticates and always verifies all transactions all the time with a never trust, always verify model. Okay, in this model, no one is trusted, even people who are behind the firewall and on your network. So you can think of Zero Trust kind of like a bank teller. When you go into the bank, you got to go, you're not allowed to go into the vault and get the money yourself. You got to go to a bank teller. And the bank teller will verify who you are. It will then, the person will then check whether you have enough money in your account to withdraw it, and are you allowed to withdraw it. And if you're allowed, and if you have the money, and if you are if they believe you are who you say you are, then the bank teller goes into the vault and gets the money and brings it to you. Okay, so you think of data like money in a bank vault. Okay, and Zero Trust is kind of like that bank teller. It verifies who you are. It checks standards and policies to make sure that you're allowed to do what you want to do, and then it goes and gets those and brings them to you. And the goal of Zero Trust is to eliminate unauthorized access to data and services and make enforcement as granular as possible. Okay, so I'm going to explain how it does that in a moment. Now you might be thinking, is Zero Trust just a marketing presentation, or is it something that real companies are really doing and adopting? And I know it is a buzzword, but it also is a real thing. And 66% of companies in North America are currently deploying Zero Trust projects. And we've seen almost a 300% year-over-year growth. It's 275% year-over-year growth in the number of organizations either are currently doing Zero Trust initiatives or plan to within the next 12 to 18 months. So first of all, Zero Trust is based upon 4 pillars. The first is trust-centric. As I've already explained, traditionally we use firewalls, antivirus software, updates to create a perimeter-based defense against threats. The problem is that organizations now have data that's outside the perimeter. They're on cloud-hosted platforms of third parties, and adversaries are both constantly finding exploits to the VPN and the OS, and they're constantly tricking users into giving up credentials to get in order to get behind the firewall. And this method of defense just doesn't work. People are constantly getting breached. So Zero Trust, as opposed to granting access or restricting access to the network, is focused on accessing and granting access to data. It's a trust-centric approach versus a threat-centric one. Second is transaction-based. The traditional defenses are essentially allow access to an entire network and are not bound by time constraints, where Zero Trust, on the other hand, verifies every user, every device, and every app for every transaction all the time. So simply because you're behind the network, behind the firewall, doesn't mean that you're not an adversary. Zero Trust assumes that everyone is a possible adversary, and therefore it's transaction-centric. And third, it's dynamic and granular. Today, our defenses are pretty broad and static, and a large group of people essentially have the same rights and access, which remains essentially unchanged. And I know that there can be exceptions to that with privileged access management, etc. But Zero Trust, on the other hand, uses very granular-based policies that are constructed on who the user is, what device they're using, what content they're accessing. That can change and adapt on a transaction-by-transaction basis. For example, Phil, you might have access to a file with editing and download rights, but Rommel, you might only be allowed to view that very same file that's located in the very same place. So it's very adaptive, it's very granular, and it can adapt and change on a transaction-by-transaction basis. It's dynamic and granular, even to the user, to the file, and the device level. And finally, it's continuously monitored. With Zero Trust, because we can track, we enable every transaction by every user, we can record and log those activities. And this record can even be integrated into your incident management software to aid in management and investigations. So Zero Trust provides for activities of continuous monitoring. So now that we looked at what Zero Trust is from a security standards point of view, let's look at how it's achieved. That's relevant to Office 365. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but I want to talk about the technologies that are used to make it a reality. And there are 3 really today. The first is Zero Trust network access. That provides application access to an on-premises network infrastructure. The next is Zero Trust application access, which provides secure access, application access to both an on-premises network and a cloud-hosted network infrastructure. And the third is Zero Trust data access, which provides secure access and sharing to on-premises and cloud-hosted data or files or folders. So it's not just to applications, it's right to the data level, user to data connection. So if you stay with me this far, you've got a pretty good eye-level understanding of what zero trust is and what you need from a security standpoint and how it's implemented with zero trust. The different types of standards that are out there with zero trust network access, zero trust application access, and zero trust data access. What I'm going to do here is zero in on zero trust data access, and this is the basic architecture of zero trust data access. And you're saying, well, how does that apply to Office? Well, the applications to Office are realized because of the mechanism and the technology that enables zero trust data access. It comes from the technology and the architecture that enables that remote access with zero trust standards. So this is what this diagram is showing you, and this is what we call zero trust data access. So I could spend hours on the diagram, especially from a security point of view, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to focus on how it provides remote access and sharing of files and folders and how that's carried out. So it not only provides secure access, but it provides tremendous productivity benefits, the architecture itself. So on the right, you've got this the storage repositories that are either on premises, behind your firewall. They could be in your corporate data center. It could be remote locations or remote offices anywhere in the world, or it can be in your infrastructure as a service providers such as Azure or Amazon or Google Cloud. And then on the left, you have your users. And your users could be on a PC, they could be on a tablet, they could be on a smartphone, and they need to remotely access and share the storage over here. And they're connected via a server. The server takes the request to remotely access and share something that's stored on the right, and it establishes a temporary encrypted microtunnel to that request and only that request. Okay, so right here, trying to think of the server like a switchboard operator that connects the user to the data. And as opposed to a VPN that connects a user to everything on the network, think of the microtunnel as a communication path that's to the requested information and only that information, and only when you need that information. So it's a new path is established for every single request. And think of a VPN like an interstate highway to a city, for example, where a microtunnel is like a driveway to a house. So the microtunnel goes directly to a connector agent, and the connector agent acts like your bank teller. It takes the request and acts as an intermediary to get that information and bring it to you. So if your files are somewhere here on the hybrid IT infrastructure on one of your company assets, the connector agent goes into that storage, gets the information and brings it to you or to anyone you tell it to. So you can access it yourself, or you can instruct that connector agent to share it and give it to someone else. With zero trust data access, that architecture establishes that dedicated temporary microtunnel, contacts a connector agent that goes into the storage and brings it to you, brings you that file or that folder. And so there you go. For Office, that means you can remotely access, edit, and share files located anywhere, not just on OneDrive. And it does this with the highest standard of security available, with zero trust security. So that brings us to FileFlex Enterprise. That's the architecture that we use. We're the industry's first fully audited and IT-controlled zero trust data access application for secure remote data access and sharing that uses that microtunnel access to hybrid IT. It supports your entire hybrid IT infrastructure of on-premises, SharePoint, and infrastructure storage. It's built upon the zero trust data access platform that employs microchannel access. It brings IT control over file sharing. It allows for the creation of secure data rooms. And it's a software solution that runs on a desktop, laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. And it brings incredible IT control. It's part of the benefits of this. It brings incredible IT control and data governance over your remote access and sharing of Office files. It integrates into your existing tools such as single sign-on, your two-factor authentication, your device authentication, your password policies, your Active Directory, your LDAP. It provides tools for user management, such as the ability to add and delete users, set permissions, manage your access control list. It allows IT to assign storage to users based on device, drive, folder, even file level granularity. It has strong sharing permissions and management controlled by IT, where IT can assign permissions based on device, drive, folder, even file level granularity. And IT, for example, IT can allow access to files, but they can't be shared if they're confidential. Or they can allow Office files to be shared, but only in view-only mode. Or for normal circumstances, maybe they can allow for downloading or editing or uploading. They can even allow uploading for the creation of secure virtual data rooms. So IT can determine who can share outside the company, who can add their own storage option, and IT can access the activity logs and export that activity log for integration in incident management software. So the beauty of building microtunnel access to storage based upon zero trust standards is that you can use it to securely access and share any storage on the modern hybrid IT infrastructure. That includes all your on-premises storage for your server attached, your network attached storage, your PCs. It includes all your cloud-hosted storage as Amazon, S3, Azure, Google Cloud. It includes all your public clouds and all your business-grade clouds. It includes your SharePoint storage. Even if you host SharePoint on premises, you can access and share that storage over the internet without the need for a VPN, even to external parties, without adding them as users or migrating your SharePoint over to the cloud-hosted version. So it's this technology that's used by FileFlex Enterprise. It will support the remote access, sharing, and editing of Office files that are located anywhere on the hybrid IT infrastructure without the need for a VPN. It provides the remote Office access, zero trust secure processes. It provides remote Office access of a robust and security set that integrates with all the security that you're already doing. It adds an activity log for remote Office access, operation, and incident management. It will provide IT the management toolkit over remote Office access, editing, and file sharing. It allows for customization of encryption policies over Office remote access, editing, and file sharing. It allows for customization of remote Office security levels, user security levels. It provides for IT control and management over Office file sharing. It can be used to protect the privacy and confidentiality of Office files. It can be used to aid in Office GDPR compliance. It can be used to aid in Office HIPAA compliance, and it can provide for view-only sharing of Office files. Having said all that, Phil, I'm going to turn off my sharing, and we can go back into the discussion and any questions anybody has.
Yeah,
okay?
we're kind of at a 30-minute mark, but I actually have a question from one of the attendees, not directed at you, Tom. I think everyone got what you're saying, but it was really, Rommel, it's you. It's what was the catalyst or motivation for the organizations you worked with, Rommel, to move or start to move to a zero trust environment?
A number of cases. The most recent one that we've been working on was we need to provide remote access to a number of third-party contractors. So in that case, that's one, right? Another key thing was, when we were hit by COVID, everybody needs to work from home, and VPN just couldn't take the load anymore. Now you have to do split tunneling so that you can just imagine we're in a Microsoft Teams call and it's just crawling or it's not working. So there's a number of things, right, that's really driving how do I get rid of this VPN, and how do I make sure that anytime, anywhere, as granular as possible, we can provide that policy.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that's great. I think, I like to keep it at the sort of 35-minute range, and I think that there's a couple of very good examples of why zero trust. And Tom, thank you for really kind of going through the detail in terms of how how it works with 365. I think is really useful for the audience. And these have been very much application focused zero trust sessions. So thanks everyone for showing up, and look forward to you at the next webinar. Okay.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.